Hello, my name is Dr. Luke Bosdet. I'm a clinical psychologist who works with the Brent Psychology Service. This video will be in two parts. The first part will cover what the normal reactions are to self-isolation and what the normal reactions are to the coronavirus situation. The second part of the video will cover how to cope with self-isolation and these reactions. So, starting with the first part, what are normal reactions to self-isolation and the coronavirus? So these reactions are based on my conversations with patients, with my colleagues and staff members, and with general members of the public. The first feeling I've been hearing about is a feeling of unreality, of surrealness. That is a difficulty accepting what is happening is actually happening and is actually real. And sometimes the moments of normality are actually making this feeling worse by acting as a contrast against all the strangeness that's occurring in our day-to-day lives. This is including seeing people wearing masks and gloves, seeing empty shelves in the supermarket, and the fact that normal life has unexpectedly and suddenly stopped. The second feeling I've been hearing about is worry, and worry as a product of uncertainty. So this is worrying about ourselves, about becoming ill, and what it means if I do become ill. It's worry about spreading it to other people. It's a worry about family members, friends, and colleagues becoming sick. And if they have health conditions, what that might mean for them. It's worry about finances, worry about work, livelihood, and careers, and generally a feeling of a lack of control, and related to that, powerlessness and helplessness about what you can do in these kind of situations. Another feeling I've been hearing about is anger, frustration, and sometimes outrage. And this seems to be mainly in response to how other people's behavior is being perceived and how businesses and the government are seen to be behaving and reacting to the virus. Other feelings include stress, feeling down, feeling bored, maybe hopeless for the future, feeling lonely, detached, disconnected. All of these feelings are everything that I've been hearing in everyone I've been talking to. And you can see how these feelings are displayed in people's behavior. So some people are becoming preoccupied with the coronavirus and the coronavirus situation. They're spending large amounts of time reading the news, reading through different news sources or questionable websites, spending large amounts of time going through comments on social media, only talking about the coronavirus, only thinking about the coronavirus. So these reactions seem to be related to more to feelings of anxiety and anger. And a few people of those are trying to take control of the situation by perhaps stockpiling and panic buying, which we've been seeing in the news. Other people are avoiding thinking about the situation at all. They're refusing to change their behavior. There is a denial of the seriousness or the risk to themselves or to other people. There's a feeling of invincibility or a denial that other feelings or other people's lives don't matter or are expendable. Other people still are avoiding emotionally by suppressing their emotions with drugs or alcohol. And a lot of these reactions are understandable. You may have felt the pull yourself to do some of these things. However, a lot of these ways of coping ultimately aren't helpful. They're not helpful for our mental health, and they're not helpful in the situation. So this brings us onto the second part of our video. How should we be coping in self-isolation? The first thing to say is about acceptance of our feelings. That is, there is no right or wrong way to feel, and there is no way you should or should not be feeling. Whatever the feeling you're having is the normal response, and it's unhelpful to punish yourself or deny that feeling that you're having. By accepting the feeling that you're having, it puts you in a better position to think about how you want to manage it and manage it in a way that protects your mental health. You are allowed to feel whatever you're feeling. It's now what you do with it that will define how you're coping. What we know is that a person's routine often collapses without an external structure like work, education, or other social groups. This increases the risk of having long periods of time where somebody ruminates and worries, which we know increases feelings of anger, depression, and anxiety. It is therefore very important to make a new normal in your home environment and to create a semblance of routine and structure. On a basic level, your routine should contain self-care. This includes keeping a regular sleeping pattern, not sleeping too late into the day, getting up and getting dressed, looking after your personal hygiene, and eating reasonably healthily. While it might not feel like much, self-care is important, as without it, our mood often suffers. Keeping a regular sleep routine also makes sure that we stay connected with the world and prevents us from becoming nocturnal. If we're out of sync with everyone else, it's difficult to stay connected to those important to us. For consideration of what else to include in our routines, I want to mention something called the 5-a-day of well-being, which are 5 activities that research suggests boost our well-being. Much like the 5-a-day of physical health, which is eating portions of fruit and vegetables, we should all be aiming to do these types of activities every day. So the first is connecting with others. So this includes friends, families, colleagues, and strangers. So I'd usually be encouraging people to do this face-to-face, but self-isolation means we need to utilize technology. So using calls, messages, video calls, online forums, using emails, and social media. And this can be everything from small acts, like sending a birthday message on social media, to doing a full-blown video party. The second is physical activity. So this can include everything from pacing inside your home for a set amount of time, walking outside and maybe in the park while keeping social distance, biking, yoga, or following video workouts, whatever you have available to you and fits with your fitness and your health. The third thing of the 5-a-day of mental well-being is to keep learning new skills and new knowledge. So this could be something formal like an online course, but it doesn't have to be. It can also be reading, watching video tutorials, trying things out at home. It's generally important that we keep our minds stimulated and that we keep learning while we're in self-isolation. The fourth thing is giving to others. And this doesn't necessarily mean financially. It can be giving to others our time or acts of kindness. The fifth and final thing is taking notice, which is about appreciation and being mindful of what's going on around us and what we have. So this can be as simple as taking the time to notice and appreciate a blue sky while we're out on a walk. It's seeing what's going well. It's finding the humor in all of the bad things that are happening. And generally appreciating each other and what we're doing for each other as well. So these 5 types of activities are what we call the 5-a-day of mental well-being. And you should have a think about how you might include them in your day. Another thing that we know is important when self-isolating is to stay informed. However, be careful of what you read and what you watch. So stick to sites with good reputations like the BBC, the CDC, or the WHO, and try to avoid reading comments on social media. So beware of fake news, rumors, conspiracy theories, and outrage stories. Our minds want to search for meanings in times of uncertainty. And it's very easy to get sucked into believing something that is ultimately false. So stay informed, but limit what and how much you read or watch every day. What helps us tolerate something difficult is to remember why we're doing it. It's important to remember that we are self-isolating to protect ourselves and to protect others more vulnerable. And this isn't an abstract thing. Think of the people you know who are older or with health conditions who are more at risk. So by following the guidelines and self-isolating, you're hoping to prevent death and suffering. It's allowing the country as a whole to take control, even when it feels like as an individual, things are out of control. It's being part of something bigger, a national response. We are all self-isolating. So ironically, we're all in this together. It's important to remember we will eventually return to normality. This self-isolation will end. We will go back to work, we'll go back to education, we'll go back down the pub, to restaurants, cafes, back to watching sports and doing sports and going to the gym. Remember that this is only temporary. Try not to lose sight of the longer term picture. This brings me to the last point of the video. I'd like to express my gratitude to all the essential and key workers still going. So everyone in retail, transport, NHS, in fact, too many people to mention. I also want to express my gratitude to those watching this video who are self-isolating. You are breaking the chain of transmission and you are doing what you can. Remember that we will get through this together. Thank you.